everyone, thanks so much for joining. So I have a special guest here today. This is my Aunt Kim, and she's actually the person who inspired me to really have a passion for ADA design and do this PDG that I'm doing. So I wanted to have a special guest, her, to help us understand some of the difficulties and challenges that she faces and learn from her. So I'll hand it over to my Aunt Kim, and she'll just briefly explain a little bit about herself, and then we'll go into a couple questions.
Hi, I'm Kim. I live in Austin with my husband and my 17-year-old son. And basically, I've been using a wheelchair since I was 16, passenger in an automobile accident, and using an electric wheelchair, and I have a spinal cord injury, so that's basically it.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about her background. So now I'm going to ask her, so what would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you had when it came to, being able to walk and before you were 16, and then all of a sudden you had the car accident, and then you had to immediately learn how to navigate the built environment in a completely different way. What was a big challenge for you in that?
I think initially I was able to walk and do everything myself, and then the accident happened, and I'm now having to make all these adjustments and face all these challenges of life now in a wheelchair. And overcoming that was huge. So now I've done that, got my confidence up, and I'm ready to go out and face the world, only to find out I have a whole new set of challenges to face in the world with the built environment. Yeah. And it felt like it started all over again for me. From the first time I couldn't get into a restaurant I wanted to go to, and it went on from there.
Oh gosh, that's so tough. And so looking back as part of your difference between, then and now, what would you say you've realized now that you were maybe oblivious to or didn't recognize back whenever you were before the accident? What are some of those things that you're like, oh, I didn't realize this back then? And with that, what kind of advice or things would you hope people would gain from going to this interactive setup that I'm hosting in Dallas in June?
Before I became disabled, I never even had a thought about a wheelchair or a cane or all the other physical challenges and disabilities that are out there that people are facing. It was never even a thought. And then suddenly I'm faced with it. Now, after years of being in the wheelchair and being a wheelchair user, the disability community is huge. It's huge. And so many people need equal access to everything that we were able to get before we became disabled.
Yeah. I bet that's a huge support system too.
Absolutely.
Was that something you grasped onto, especially in the beginning?
Yeah, I did.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's so great. And then, so if you could name top 3 things that are like your pet peeves, things that you run into in the built environment, or just day to day, week to week, things that you're like, this is so frustrating and aggravating, I can't do blank because of blank. Like, let me know what those are, and then with that, how can me as a designer and my fellow designers and colleagues and coworkers, what can we do to better ourselves in what we do on a day-to-day basis to help you and people like you?
I can tell you my number 1 pet peeve is people that are not disabled that park in a disabled parking place. It is my biggest pet peeve because it is one of the most inconsiderate things people can do. I have been stuck in so many situations where people were in the parking places that were not supposed to be there, and I literally couldn't park. I couldn't find any place else to park.
Because for her, she has to use a wheelchair that has a ramp. So it's not like she can just, park somewhere else that's close to a handicap spot and just walk out, right? She has to park in those spots that are right next to the cross-lined spots. So because the ramp has to come out and everything like that, so if she doesn't have that, she can't get into the building.
And another thing, the cross lines, that's not another parking place, people. It's not.
Yeah. And I remember you telling me a couple years ago when I was in school asking you about this this type of project. And she was like, Amanda, I would drive around for 40 minutes during Christmas trying to go around, and because you do the Christmas shopping for your family. And so you're like, I gotta go places, gotta get things done on my list. And she can't get it done because she can't get inside the building. Like, so just think twice before parking in those spots.
Absolutely.
What other things?
The other big pet peeve is not having equal access to buildings. From everything from not having a curb cut out to get up the curb to get to the business I'm wanting to go to, or the curb cut is half a mile away at the other end of the shopping center. And then you get to the building you want to go into, and there's 2 steps to get in. And that would be entry into buildings.
Yeah, entry.
From the minute you leave your vehicle to accessing the indoors of the building.
Yeah.
Accessible.
Yeah.
Third thing,
Yeah.
Bathrooms.
Yes.
Let's
please.
discuss bathrooms.
Let's do it. Bathrooms are huge.
We all gotta go.
Yes. Yes.
So there are a lot of ADA requirements that go into a bathroom, from having lower sinks to having area under the sink where a wheelchair could pull up to it, and the list goes on.
Yep.
To make sure that bathrooms are wheelchair and as well as other disability friendly.
Mm-hmm. And I know for you, especially like whenever y'all had Evan when he was little, you'd prefer to have a family restroom.
To this day, we still prefer a family
Yes,
restroom.
true.
Because there are a lot of people with disabilities that their spouse or a caregiver needs to assist them in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And yep, there's been lots of times my husband and I have snuck into the men's bathroom at the airport, at a restaurant. Couldn't count how many.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. But yeah, so then with that, what kind of things would you suggest for designers? Like, what can we do better? Like, I know we had talked earlier about the door thresholds, or like the transitions, or the types of pavement or types of flooring in certain areas.
Use pebble stone.
Yeah, that's
Please
tough.
don't use pebble stone.
So that's something, out in the outside too, the landscape.
Right, landscape, and that's where curb cuts can come in. That's where accessible trails, on hiking trails, make sure you're using very tiny gravel types of things versus a lot of uneven type of rock or other structures. There's been times I get halfway down a trail and my family and I can't go any farther because there's some obstacle in the way that I can't quite get over with my wheelchair.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll definitely be keeping that in mind. And another thing, I was talking to someone else I was interviewing for my bios I was writing, and she had mentioned this. She was like, I don't understand why in a public restroom, a women's restroom, there's all these stalls, and then the biggest ADA stall is at the very back.
Yes.
Why is that, right? I asked myself that question. I was like, you know what? I feel like I should know the answer to that, especially being an interior designer. Why do we do that? But why would it not be the first one,
Right.
Because if you're going in a wheelchair and you have to go all the way down, past all these people that are coming out,
right.
And you're like, oh, excuse me,
Traffic jam.
they're going to hit you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're in the bathroom.
Right.
Traffic jam.
You don't want that in a bathroom of all places. Yeah, so there's some design things that I question myself or the code is not good enough. Like you said, the bathroom stalls might be the code, but they might not actually be good, right?
Right,
Especially if you have a caregiver in there with you.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lots of things to think about and consider, and I'm just so happy I was able to come down to Austin and talk with my aunt and share with you guys some of the information she has to offer and her perspective. So thanks so much for listening, and please remember, if you do enjoy watching these videos, please like and subscribe. And remember, my ADA structure is going to be up in Dallas June 11th to the 15th, so that's a Friday to Tuesday. I'll be there the whole time, so come on by anytime. It's at the AIA building. It's the ADEX building, ADEX building in Dallas. If you just search that, you'll find the address. But yeah, thanks so much, and thank you to my Aunt Kim.
Bye.
Bye.